Energy Commission, David Hochschild.
So that's quite a little entrance music there. Get me going in the morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to California. I'm David Hochschild, chair of the California Energy Commission. Every now and then in your life, if you're lucky, you get to participate in something that really matters. And I think bringing a big, new clean energy industry to the West Coast of the United States is really important. I want to thank all of you for participating in this journey with us to 25 gigawatts. So I want to walk us through a little bit about what's happening in California now and sort of where offshore wind fits in. And to begin with, I want to note that in Chinese, the word for crisis is actually two other words combined, danger and opportunity. And I think that sort of perfectly captures the moment we're in California. We had really the worst wildfires in the history of the state. We've just come through an extensive drought and all kinds of climate impacts happening in our state. But inside that is the opportunity, which we're seizing now, to go bigger and bolder and faster towards a future beyond fossil fuels, a future powered entirely by clean energy. And I want to walk you through a little bit of what's happening to that. Really, the way to think about it right now in California is that the electric grid is ascendant, okay? And the future is going to run through wires more than pipes. Today in California, alternative energy is the wrong word to use to describe renewables. We're 60% carbon-free electricity now. The governor signed legislation in September that requires 90% carbon-free electricity by 2035. And of course, we have 100% mandated by 2045. Some 21 states in the US have now made that. And really what's going on now is the electrification of almost everything as we extend that clean electricity. Across the country, of course, renewables are the vast majority of new capacity being added to the grid. This is actually true even during the Trump administration because solar and wind are winning on cost, and most of the retirements on the grid are fossil. So the grid is getting cleaner every single day. So I want to give you guys a little tour of our California clean energy mosaic, and this is a great little proverb I love. The people who say it can't be done should get out of the way of the people who are doing it. So I want to just give hats off to all the developers and innovators who have been doing this around the state. This is in California that we have the world's largest thin film solar PV project. This is called Desert Sunlight. It's 550 megawatts. It's about half the peak capacity of a city like San Francisco. And just to give you a sense of the innovation happening, when they were installing this project, all these solar panels had frames, and like halfway through the project, they figured out how to do the rest of the installation without frames. The efficiency of the solar panels wasn't high enough to justify being on a horizontal tracker when they started. By the end of the project, everything now is on tracking. So incredible amount of innovation happening. We're also home just about an hour and a half away from us here in Sacramento. It's the world's largest geothermal power plant, of course, producing clean electricity 24 hours a day. We have also the world's largest solar rooftop. This is the Apple headquarters. 17 megawatts, and inside, just to give you a sense of this building, you could fit the entire 49ers stadium inside that donut hole. So an incredible building. I had major building envy when I was visiting this headquarters. They've actually filled the middle there with fruit trees, so apples and pears and plums. And we're also home in California to the world's largest battery storage project in Moss Landing. That's actually been a huge focus for us here in California, particularly because most of our new capacity additions are solar and wind, so we really need the batteries to help support reliability, and we are going really big on this. So we had 250 megawatts of utility-owned, grid-connected battery storage capacity in 2019. Last month we hit 5,000 megawatts. We will hit 15,000 megawatts by the end of the decade, a really important part of our energy strategy. We also are home to the world's largest solar thermal tower power plant, the Ivanpah project. So this is 173,000 heliostat mirrors that take the sunlight and focus it at the top of those 550-foot towers where the boilers are. And of course, the world's second largest wind project, the Alta Wind Energy Center in Kern County. As many of you know who are in the wind industry, one of the exciting things that's been happening a lot is repowering. And just to give you a sense of this, we have been doing wind for a long time. So California was the first utility scale wind project in the world was here. The early turbines had very, very high RPM, 45 RPM, and had this lattice structure. And we've been seeing projects like this. This is called Vasco, where they actually took 432 of the old turbines and repowered and replaced them with 34 new turbines that tripled the energy production and reduced avian mortality. So part of the progress in reducing the environmental footprint of wind. We're also seeing incredible new reaches of electrification. So just probably 45 minutes away from us, there's the Pepsi facility where they now are using these 500-mile range Tesla semi-trucks to deliver goods and recharge in 2 hours. And larger charging stalls. So this is actually the largest in the world. There's 98 charging stalls at this station in Coalinga. We are now at 87,000 electric vehicle chargers in California, and we will hit in the third quarter this year our goal to get to 10,000 fast chargers. The charging industry is really progressing, and I think we'll land ultimately at like a 600 kW charger, which is 200 miles of charge in 3 minutes. So some really exciting momentum there. Governor Newsom, in the middle of our worst wildfire season in 2020, to this point of finding the opportunity inside the crisis, signed this historic executive order requiring that 100% of our new vehicle sales be zero emission by 2035, and we're getting there. So 2 years ago, we were at 12%. Last quarter, Q4 of 2022, we hit 23% of new vehicle sales being electric, and really every major automaker in the world is now pushing for electric. So great progress there, and you can see the market cap, the valuation in the auto industry is really ordered around your progress towards electrification. So Tesla is now many times more valuable than Ford, GM, and Stellantis combined. We're also going further upstream in an effort we're calling Lithium Valley, which is to produce, we have a massive reserve of sustainable lithium. Actually, it was just featured on 60 Minutes on Sunday night, and it's the greenest way to produce lithium in the world. It's from a geothermal brine down in the Salton Sea area. So we're pushing hard on that and to bring battery manufacturing back to California. And of course, offshore wind is something we're all really excited about. We set the state's planning goal last summer at 25 gigawatts by 2045 and up to 5 gigawatts by 2030. And really, we're in a period I'm calling now the great implementation. We're actually done mostly with the large goal setting. It's really about rolling up our sleeves and getting it done. So that's why we're all here this week. And of course, floating is an incredibly exciting new potential. I do want to thank our European friends. We're behind, not just behind the East Coast, but way behind on Europe on this. And it's been a really tremendous opportunity for me and my colleagues to learn from places like Denmark and the UK and Germany and others that are ahead of us on this. We're also pushing for grid reliability in all sorts of different ways. This is a great company called Beam that has a solar-powered EV charger that's not even connected to the grid. So, I'm pointing this out because a lot of what is driving the demand, that's the need for offshore wind, is transportation electrification, and we got to get this charging infrastructure all over the state. So the state of California has bought a bunch of these. They just fit in one parking space. As we've been doing this, one of the critiques we've heard again and again and again is that, this will be devastating for your economy. And we've been hearing this about our clean energy policies for 15 years. And just to point out, a decade ago, we were ranked the number 10 economy in the world. Then we passed Italy and Russia, and then we passed Brazil, and then France, and then we passed the United Kingdom, thanks to Brexit in part. And then this year, we're on track to pass Germany to become the number 4 economy in the world. And I think that is really an important part of the narrative, which is that clean energy has actually been good for us. We're getting the majority of US clean tech venture capital and new companies growing. The largest car manufacturing operation in the whole country is here in California. Tesla's making 2,000 electric vehicles a day. off the Fremont factory. And these things have been good for our economy. So we're going to keep going. And as I mentioned, we in addition to having all these manufacturing jobs, we just hit a few weeks ago a goal we've had for over a decade, which is to get to 1.5 million electric vehicles by 2025. We hit that 2 years early. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is New York City, Fifth Avenue in 1900, entirely horse and buggies. And then 13 years later, same street, entirely cars, with one horse and buggy. So just to keep in mind how quickly economic transformation can happen. And often what is seen as wild and crazy is, a decade later, conventional wisdom. We're also pushing hard for renewables on buildings. So we have now required in 2020, all new homes have to have solar. And as of a few months ago in California, all new buildings have to have solar. So we're adding about 1 gigawatt of rooftop solar capacity every 2 years just from these energy codes. And as I mentioned, we're pushing towards the electrification of everything, and that includes all these two-wheeled vehicles and buses and so forth, as well as all electric homes. You're seeing a trend towards that right now in California, and even electric ports. So the Port of San Diego is the first port in the United States to go to 100% electric. They will be getting the country's first all-electric tugboat in July, and then in the fall, we'll be installing their electric cranes. So great momentum on that as well. In rail, if you came through San Francisco or Silicon Valley, the rail line that connects those two communities is diesel and converting to electric, and that'll be done next year. And of course, high-speed rail still underway in California. I want to close with this, which is I think the way to think about the transformation beyond fossil fuels is really to understand the story of smoking in the United States. And I say this because both my grandfathers were in World War II. Every American soldier in the war was given as part of daily rations bar of chocolate, food, and then a pack of cigarettes. And you had a generation of American men come home as smokers. And so half the country was smoking after the war. President Kennedy smoked, Johnny Carson smoked, Marilyn Monroe smoked, doctors actually did ads for cigarettes. And then the science came out that, hey, smoking causes cancer and secondhand smoke causes cancer. And the tobacco industry went from making one product to making two products. They manufactured cigarettes and they manufactured doubt. They put $100 million into junk science to distort this basic truth that smoking causes cancer. And that is something we've seen in climate as well, right? But I think what happened next is very instructive and for me, very hopeful, which is that the truth got out, the science was understood, and then there was this cascade of policies to reduce smoking. So health warnings on packages and banning advertisements of cigarettes on television and smoking airplanes and bars and restaurants. And we went from half the country smoking down to 9% and falling. And so I think it's really one of the great public health success stories in our country's history, and I think a model for us as we think about our clean energy future. So let me just wrap with this, which is, like all of you, the natural world is really sacred and important to me and to my family, and always have loved trees. I learned recently that the oldest tree in the world is here in California as well, over 4,000 years old. So, through a tree that was there in the time of Christ, and to see that. And then the tallest tree in the world is here as well in Humboldt County. And then I was able, fortunately, to take my family to see what's the largest tree, which is the General Sherman tree in Sequoia National Park. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Sequoia. I see a number of you. If you haven't put this on your list, it is absolutely awe-inspiring. And at the base of this tree, you see these cones that have fallen from the top, and you open the cone, there's little seeds the size of a grain of rice. And I found it very humbling and inspiring that something so big could start so small, but I think that's how we ought to think about the change we're doing. These gestures, that the first steps are so important, and we can together create something really big and really important. So thank you for having me, and have a great conference.